You could probably already tell by now, I love Christmas. It's always been my favorite holiday. You can also tell that I love Christmas-related media from the videos you've seen on this channel. And you can also tell that I love Hanna-Barbera, though mainly their shows from the late 50s and early 60s. My earliest and happiest childhood memories can be traced back to various Christmas specials and movies I watched growing up. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, A Charlie Brown Christmas, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, Mickey's Christmas Carol, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Frosty Snowman, and Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas, just to name a few. But there is another one that I barely mentioned, mainly because it's not that great. And that would be Yogi's First Christmas, which aired on syndication on November 22nd, 1980. It was written by Willie Gilbert, who sadly passed away shortly after the film's premiere, and was directed by Ray Patterson, who was an animator on Disney's Dumbo, various Droopy and Tom and Jerry cartoons for MGM, and Hanna-Barbera's Hey There's Yogi Bear. In the late 70s to early 90s, Patterson became the director of various Hanna-Barbera made-for-TV movies and specials, such as Scooby-Doo Goes Hollywood, Christmas Comes to Pac-Land, A Flintstones Family Christmas, and the one we're going to be watching. The movie has been aired on various stations throughout the 80s and 90s holiday seasons, as well as on Cartoon Network. As for where you can watch it now, it does occasionally air on Boomerang during the holiday season, and I'm sure MeTV Toons will eventually air it if they haven't already. It was also released on VHS in 1983, Laserdisc in 1991, and a Warner Archive DVD from 2009. As for my memories of this film, I grew up in Texas in the mid-2000s, and I remember watching this at my Nana's old house via a DVR recording. I don't remember if it was a Boomerang airing, but since I don't recall other networks having this at the time, it probably might have been Boomerang. So let's start watching this movie and see what it has to offer. We start the movie off with Ranger Smith driving Huckleberry Hound and friends to Jellystone Lodge. Almost all the classic characters in this TV movie are voiced by their original actors, like Dawes Butler and Don Messick. The movie was my introduction to Huckleberry Hound, as well as Snagglepuss, Augie Doggy, and Doggy Daddy, who in this one was voiced by John Stevenson instead of Doug Young from the Quick Draw McGraw Show.
Friends, we're all on the go again. You better bundle up, it's starting to snow again.
Did Hanna-Barbera plagiarize Chip and Dale? So far everyone is having a gay old time, all except the film's main antagonist, Herman the Hermit. So Huckleberry and pals made it to the Jellystone Lodge, where we are introduced to manager Mr. Dingwell, also voiced by Stevenson, and Chef Otto, voiced by Hal Smith. Unfortunately, Mr. Dingwell tells everyone that the lodge will be closing after the holiday season. However, he did inform everyone that the lodge's owner, Mrs. Sophie Throckmorton, voiced by Janet Waldo, will be visiting the lodge.
If we can all make sure that Mrs. Throckmorton enjoys her stay here, she may decide not to sell the lodge.
You can count on me to hold forth with all my charm, or 50 then. I could always sing, Clementine.
Yeah, everybody will get into the act.
Me too, dear old dad.
The noise from the lodge wakes up Yogi and Boo Boo, wondering what the fuss is all about. So they sneak into the lodge's kitchen, to which they get mistaken for waiters. They meet up with Huckleberry Hound, and they all sing about how Yogi's gonna celebrate Christmas for the first time.
Good one, Yogi.
We're gonna have fun, Yogi.
He's never hung a stocking up before, never put a wreath on his front door. He didn't know a kiss below a little sprig of mistletoe was something Cindy Bear was waiting for.
So after Ranger and Dingwell discover Yogi's presence, it's now Ranger Smith's duty to get Yogi back to his cave. So there's a small montage of both men trying to get Yogi and Boo Boo.
I'll stop them.
Mr. Dingwell? Sir, where are you?
Mr. Dingwell, you're standing on my back again.
Fun fact, I always misheard Mr. Dingwell's name as Mr. Bigweld. Don't ask me why, I was really into robots at the time. While all of this was going on, we are introduced to the lodge's owner, Sophie Throckmorton, who is taking her nephew, Snively, to the Jellystone Lodge, much to his dismay.
I hate it already. And so do you, Aunt Sophie. That's why you want to sell it.
That's not true. I'm selling it purely for business reasons.
I want to go home.
Now, don't be like that. They tell me Christmas Carnival Week is loads of fun.
I hate Christmas, and I hate carnivals. They're boring.
For the longest time, I always thought Snively sounded like Toad from the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, but now I think he sounds more like Cousin Dinky from Pac-Man and Zipper from Deke's Skittle Gang series. Ironic considering they're all voiced by separate actresses. While Herman was trying to cause chaos, Yogi, who's riding on a snowplow, accidentally saves Mrs. Throckmorton and Snively. Unlike Ranger and Dingwell, Sophie is grateful for what Yogi and Boo Boo did and demands they be promoted, so Mr. Dingwell promotes the two as bellhoppers.
My, what a charming bear.
Yuck!
Charming bear? Now I can't make Yogi go back to his cave. But I'll be around. He'd better behave.
Mr. Murgatroyd, every time I turn around, Yogi's doing a slumber number.
Well, I'll tell you what it says. It says, "Don't wake up the sleeping bears!"
Did I hear the magic words? Yum, 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 yummy.
Snively gives her aunt's skates to Yogi as a joke and pretends that they are missing, so Ranger Smith checks every guest to see which one has their stolen skates. He eventually finds the skates on Yogi's feet and blames him for stealing them. So Yogi escapes while the figure skating competition is happening. Luck would have it, his antics with the Ranger ended up winning him the competition. Snively eventually confessed that he gave Yogi those skates.
Then Yogi didn't steal them?
No, Snively gave them to him. Congratulations, Yogi. This trophy is yours.
Next, we have the ski jumping competition. I find it incredibly jarring how Augie's clothes are green, then in the next shot they're red, and in the next shot it's back to green. It happens pretty often throughout the film. I wonder what was going on in the animation department.
Boy, I really hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
Snively unhooks Yogi's skis, but since his performance ended up still being good, Yogi won the ski jump competition as well, much to Snively's dismay. Not only that, but Sophie even promotes Yogi to a ski instructor.
I don't want to sing those corny old carols.
Oh, Snively, where's your Christmas spirit?
I don't have any, and I won't sing with those dum-dums. Christmas carols, tree trimming party, big deal. Phooey.
That boy ain't right.
Everyone goes back into the lodge to rehearse for Christmas caroling, but uh-oh, Mrs. Throckmorton doesn't like it, because they need one more female voice. What does Boo Boo do in this situation? He goes bothering Cindy Bear while she's currently hibernating, but that didn't matter once Boo Boo tells her that Yogi is present.
A singing chorus?
Please, Cindy.
I'm sorry, Boo Boo. It's only December. I need my beauty sleep.
Okay, Cindy. Oh, poor Yogi.
Yogi? What about Yogi?
Fun fact, Cindy's usual actress Julie Bennett wasn't available around the time recording for the film was happening, so Janet Waldo, who also voices Sophie Throckmorton in this movie, took over as Cindy Bear as well. I expected her to sound like a clone of Penelope Pitstop since they're both Southern and voiced by Waldo, but no, Cindy's Southern accent is actually a lot more toned down in this, which, not gonna lie, I actually think fits Cindy's 1964 design a lot better. Speaking of design, I wonder why her bangs are white in this movie. Must have been creative liberties.
Why didn't you say so before?
She's happy.
Good thinking, Boo-Boo.
Once that's over, more skiing goes on outside, and once again, Herman tries to sabotage their fun, to which Yogi ends up saving Sophie by accident. Back at the lodge, Boo Boo and Cindy are alone, where she's being introduced to the idea of kissing someone under the mistletoe, to which she breaks into a song about wanting to kiss Yogi under the mistletoe. I remembered being by myself watching this scene. Either that or I was the only one paying attention to it. The song starts off pretty much what I was expecting, though by the time the song was starting to kick in, that's when I was in for a rude awakening. Imagine you are 4 to 5-year-old me visiting family members in Texas for the holiday season, watching things like Rudolph and Frosty at their homes. You've just been introduced to the idea of being in love with someone thanks to Disney. Then you watch this movie, seeing Cindy Bear for the very first time, and all of a sudden, you see this. The song itself was fine, it was the animation that woke me up. Watching the whole scene made me ask a lot of questions. Why is Cindy giving Boo Boo this angry look? She isn't angry at him as far as I could tell. Why is she chasing and crawling towards him? I thought she wanted Yogi. I know the mistletoe scene is completely harmless and everything, but the saucy look on Cindy's face coupled with Boo Boo's uncomfortable expression her suggestive movement, and the fact that no other character is around watching this, let's just say it showed me how romantically different she was from Minnie Mouse. The whole song went over my head and I didn't understand any of this while watching, since 4-year-old me thought the idea of love was just about hugging and kissing. The older I got, the more the scene left an impact on the way I viewed romance and furries as a whole. So if you ever wondered why I have a thing for subtly sexy animals, well now you know how it all started. One thing's for sure though, after rewatching this scene, I will never look at the way bears walk the same way again. Unfortunately, Cindy's Mistletoe song was just the peak of the whole movie. Everything else after that is just, well, boring. Yogi wakes up wondering what all the commotion was. Cindy attempts to kiss Yogi, which fails since Yogi would rather get freaky with food.
Oh, I'll get him under the mistletoe somehow.
Meanwhile, Mrs. Throckmorton and the others are outside seeing Jellystone's famous geyser. Then they see Herman disguised as a pretty small abominable snow monster, to which was accidentally stopped by Yogi, who was being chased by a love-struck Cindy. So Throckmorton promotes Yogi to being a security guard. As Yogi was putting down all the mistletoes that Cindy put up, he fell off the ladder, finally giving the chance for Cindy to kiss him.
Gotcha.
So now we have an ice fishing competition. Oddly enough, on the contest board, Mr. Jinx's name appears on it, yet he's nowhere to be found in this movie. Which raises the question, was Mr. Jinx planned to appear in this movie? And if so, why wasn't he? Nothing against Snagglepuss or anything, but I honestly would have much preferred Mr. Jinx's inclusion over the likes of Snag. Snively tries to sabotage and trap Doggy Daddy until Yogi stops him, resulting in Snively falling into the water hole. Back at the lodge, Snively tries to snitch on Yogi, then Yogi comes, telling Mrs. Throckmorton that he isn't apologizing to him.
I want to thank you, Yogi. It's about time someone taught Snively a lesson.
Hey, Aunt Sophie!
Now perhaps he'll stop acting like a spoiled brat.
Huh? You'll be sorry, Aunt Sophie, and so will you old fuzzball!
Oh!
You'll see!
Gee, yeah, maybe I ought to apologize.
No, he'll be a better boy for it.
Jeez, I know Snively's kind of an asshole who deserves the worst, but I'd argue that Sophie is no better for how belittling she treats her own nephew. So Snively prompts to run away, and he meets Herman. While all this was going on, Yogi and Ranger Smith form a search party to go look for Snively. Upon realizing, Herman and Snively team up to make everyone's lives miserable, such as sending the snowmobile into the geyser with a sleeping Cindy and Boo Boo in it. Yogi attempts to save them until the helicopter that Herman and Snively are driving accidentally saves them. The gang all discover Snively and Herman's naughty deeds.
Herman, eh? Well, that name will soon be changed to a number. You're under arrest.
Ranger, must you? On Christmas Eve.
But... oh, okay. Rangers have Christmas spirit too. You're free to go.
Better boy, Mr. Ranger.
Good for you. That's right, nice.
When Sophie congratulates Yogi, she promotes Yogi to hotel manager, demoting Mr. Dingwell in the process.
Front! Let's get some action here.
If it's action you want, Yogi, I'm ready, willing, and kissable.
Not now, Cindy. I'm ringing the bell for the hotel personnel.
A waitress is hotel personnel? Yogi Bear, when am I gonna get that Christmas kiss?
Cindy, I gotta start the celebration, which leaves no time for osculation.
Ooh, excuses.
How am I supposed to trust you when all you give me are excuses? When are you two gonna learn that your actions have consequences? Consequences that affect other people, like me. Don't you two understand? I'm about to lose my job. You may not care about keeping your jobs, but I care about keeping mine. Because if I lose my job, I have nothing. Do you hear me? I have nothing.
Gee, it ain't easy being a dreamboat.
After being upset with Snively, Sophie forbids him from going to the holiday party. Herman helps him escape outside, where they will have their own dinner. Back at the lodge, Huckleberry Hound sings one of his worst performances of Clementine.
In a canyon, excavating for a mine, lived a miner, 49er.
Huggy, my boy, I think now's the time to give you one of your Christmas presents.
Oh, thanks. Do you all consider it that?
Gone forever, oh my darling Clementine.
After that, all the characters start decorating for the party. Outside the lodge, Snively is having second thoughts on dinner with Herman. Wondering where Yogi is, Yogi returns with a bunch of orphans that Throckmorton invited. Mrs. Throckmorton finally announces that she won't sell the lodge after all, and that Mr. Dingwell will be manager again next year.
I'll start planning immediately on next year's carnival.
No, that will be the job of our new permanent Christmas carnival director,
And that is
Yogi Bear.
Yogi Bear.
Speaking of Yogi Bear, he comes down the chimney dressed as Santa Claus, giving out presents to all at the party. Herman and Snively admit defeat, are all forgiven, and promise to be good from now on.
You know something, Herman? They're not dum-dums. We are.
I know. We had it all wrong.
We love Christmas.
And Christmas loves you. Why? The answer is easy. Because Christmas loves everyone.
Hooray for Christmas!
Cindy's story also ends after Yogi gives her a crown, and then she makes the cutest face ever drawn. And after getting kissed by Yogi, she sings one more song, this time about how the mistletoe should be a thing all year round. Thankfully this time, it's a lot more tame.
Then I could kiss him every night beneath the moonlight, and I could kiss him when there isn't any moon. I can't stand the thought of missing all that tender love and kissing. That old custom's out of date. Take it away. Mistletoe, I'm going to use you every day.
What have I done? These lips are lethal weapons.
The real Santa Claus shows up, congratulating Yogi for doing him a solid. After Santa tries to give him a picnic basket, Yogi starts to fall asleep.
This time of year, Yogi's supposed to be hibernating.
When he wakes up in the spring, wish him a happy Christmas from me. Ho, 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 ho. A Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
So everyone goes outside to Yogi's cave to bring the now sleeping Yogi back to where he can spend the rest of the winter hibernating. And that's where the movie ends.
Good night, Yogi. You're a dear, sweet bear.
Ding, dang it! I gotta go along with that.
Yeah. Good night, you old fuzzball. You're some terrific character.
See you in the spring, Yogi. Sleep well, and Merry Christmas.
And to all of you out there, a Merry Christmas to you too. Ho, ho, ho.
And that was Yogi's first Christmas. Yeah, it's definitely no Rudolph or Charlie Brown, but at least I can respect the intentions the people behind the film wanted to make, even if the final product ended up being a little dull. The main problem I have with this movie, which is actually a problem I have with most Hanna-Barbera TV movies in general, is the fact that it's an hour and a half long. Because of this, some scenes tend to be a drag to watch, especially in scenes where the stakes are high but the payoff falls short. Maybe it was because the music they played wasn't intense enough, or the animation wasn't satisfying, but I digress. Personally, I think they should have just trimmed the movie down to 50 minutes or even lower. Maybe that would have helped improve the film's overall pacing. I think what makes Hanna-Barbera movies different is that they were more character-driven. The writing and overall plot for the movie is nothing special, but it's the characters and their style of humor that keeps me captivated. Though as much as I liked most of the new characters, I kinda wish they focused more on the old characters. You have Huckleberry Hound, Augie Doggy, Doggy Daddy, and Snagglepuss, but they don't really do much outside of commentating on the situation. I feel like if they played more of a role on one of the film's storylines, I think they could have been more memorable inclusions, just something to make him and the others not feel like afterthoughts. I also feel like Ranger Smith could have had a bigger role, but he only really does in the first half. And while he still suffers from the fact that he's the snobby, apathetic 1964 version of him, he's much more tolerable in this film, especially in the second act, despite having less screen time. Sophie Throckmorton and Mr. Dingwell seem like kind people, and that's all I can really say. Oh, have I ever told you that I hated Snively as a kid? All the characters, even his own aunt, constantly talk down on him because of his horrendous behavior. All he is just some whiny snob who thinks it's all about him. It also doesn't help the fact that he has such an obnoxious voice. I also just don't give a crap about Herman. I always forget he was even in this film until he meets Snively. Now, Yogi's First Christmas was my introduction to Cindy Bear, Yogi's self-proclaimed girlfriend. She gave me such an interesting first impression after that Mistletoe song. Before Jellystone came around, I always associated Cindy the most with that whole sequence, for how emotionally intriguing it was to me, especially as someone who had a crush on someone in kindergarten, and later resorting to fictional non-human characters after I realized she would never love me back. Let's just say watching Cindy's desire to kiss Yogi, as well as Pepe Le Pew's obsession with Penelope, didn't win her over. It also didn't help how weirdly animated Cindy was, especially at the end where she got all furry with white highlights in her pupils. I feel like it has to be a rule that if you have any sort of nostalgic or childhood memories with something, it's hard to truly hate it. Yogi's First Christmas has some elements that I can't stand about the overall Yogi series, mainly in the way some characters are portrayed, but at the same time, I find it to be one of the better Yogi productions from around the time. Would I overall recommend it to anyone? I mean, I guess. It's a pretty inoffensive and completely watchable film, but don't expect it to be a holiday masterpiece like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or Santa Claus is Coming to Town. 2 years later, a shorter holiday-themed Yogi special would air, called Yogi Bear's All-Star Christmas Caper. Personally, as someone who just saw it not too long ago, I thought it was way better than Yogi's First Christmas for its shorter length and superior story. Sure, this one doesn't have Cindy Bear in it, but it does have Mr. Jinx, Fred Flintstone, Barney Rubble, Quick Draw McGraw, Snooper and Blabber, and Miguel Gorilla, so if anything, I consider it a fair trade-off. Let me know if I should cover that one next Christmas, or any time even. I don't think it has to be Christmas, I could probably even talk about it in like July or something. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a very Merry Christmas.